welcome to How to Start Your Own Magazine Part 4. So I know a lot of you have been waiting for this video for a really long time, and I'm sorry about that. I've been really bad on getting content out, but I'm back on the bandwagon and hopefully I can keep pumping out videos for you guys. So today I'm going to be answering your questions from my last video and going over why I designed my last issue with Canva as opposed to InDesign like my others, and why my last issue was the last issue I will ever be making of the print edition and just sticking to digital. Lastly, I will be covering some ideas of who you may want to work with for your publication in the way of brands and ads for your magazine. So I'm just going to dive into the questions first of all. So the first question was, how do I know what to charge vendors and how do I approach them? So my answer to that is to do your research into what other magazines and newspapers are charging for ads. So I mean local magazines and newspapers. So this is something I learned over time, that you can't really compare yourself and your publication if you're just starting out to places like Vogue, because honestly it's really hard to find magazines that advertise their ad prices. The only places that I could really find when starting out was like big magazines that charge like $10,000 for an ad space. So in saying that, you want to look at local places, and I say magazines and newspapers because newspapers do charge similar prices in ads, and if you think about it, they are a publication, they are publishing people's articles, they're pretty similar to a magazine, right? So you want to look at how much they charge for ads as well, and specifically to your local area, because this is really important to determine how much advertisers are willing to pay and companies are willing to pay for ads. So if you think about it, you're going to have a pretty hard time finding anyone that wants to pay thousands of dollars for an ad in a magazine that sells 3 copies. So you just have to bear that in mind. Like, these big boss magazines are selling millions of copies, hundreds of thousands of copies. So they appeal to a lot of people and they can charge these prices. Us beginners, I'd say starting with prices such as, and this may sound low, but you're going to build it up. And as you build up your audience, you're going to be able to charge more. So I'd say let me just get one of my magazines to show you, for example. So I don't have a copy of my latest magazine yet because it's coming in the mail, and because of COVID and Christmas and everything, MagCloud can take 3 to 6 weeks to post your order. So I have ordered it, but I'm just waiting still. But I just wanted to mention that the quality of Canva, using Canva to make your magazine versus Adobe, from pictures that I've been sent from writers that have written for my issue who have bought it, the print quality is the same. So MagCloud really who prints it, so I guess they determine the print quality, and also Canva's just really good and free, so that's a bonus. But this is my last issue before the one I just made, and so let's go with this. So as you can see, that banner size, say you wanted to publish an ad that size, and so I would say that's compared to the whole page, I would say you'd charge about $30 for something like that. Depends also like how frequently your magazine issues are coming out. So like if you put them out monthly or quarterly, you can afford to charge more because their ad's going to be seen for a longer period of time. If you put magazines out weekly, their ad's only going to be seen for a week. So keep that in mind too. So I'd say if you had it for a month, maybe you could charge $60, $70 for that. Whereas a full page ad, I would say you could probably charge $150 or $120, maybe even $200 if you're good at bargaining. But I'd start with, what I see ad companies do is start with the higher price you have in mind, and then if they say no, work your way down to the lower price you had in your head. Just don't aim too high at the beginning. But I will also put an example of, I worked for a local newspaper, and I'll put some examples on the screen of what they charged for their ads. And so say what I said to charge for a full page ad, if you did a half page ad, split the cost in half. That is my advice on that. I know it's not super specific, but I hope that it helps a bit. Now, ideas for who to approach for ads. So let's say that your magazine is a music-based magazine. So I have heaps of contacts with music industries. So for example, I get emails from PR companies that manage music festivals and music artists that are going to be at those festivals. And I get the opportunities to interview those artists, and people like that you could approach for ads if you were a music magazine, and you actually might be able to charge quite a bit to like a music festival for ads. So keep that in mind. Also, all of my contacts I do have, which I find are so useful no matter what industry you're in, I have so many magazine contacts, are all on my Patreon. So make sure you check that out because they are really useful. You'll get access to all my contacts, which is updated monthly because I just keep making more contacts. And another thing that I wanted to mention, which I'll probably address more later in the video as well, but once you get in with PR companies, you keep getting more and more names. So say that you get someone's contact and then they will pass your name around. They love passing your name around. They'll pass your name around to everyone in that company. So, and in PR companies, workers tend to move around a lot. So say they'll jump to a different PR company. So they will take all their contacts with them. So that just exposes you more and more and more. And eventually you'll find out that you actually don't have to contact anyone. People come to you. So that is super awesome. So once you get started on that role, like you will just keep getting more and more people. So that's awesome. But like I said, to start out, I've got my contact list, which just keeps growing on my Patreon. So I think that's really useful for anyone that's starting out in the magazine industry. That question, how do you approach them? So I do have, again, on my Patreon, I actually have how to start your own magazine 101 course. And in that course, I actually have scripts on emails that you can send to these people, emails that you can send to the companies on how to be on their PR list. But in short, I would just start Googling PR companies in your area. Depends how broad you want to go. If you want to just appeal to your state or country or worldwide, then basically I Googled the map and I just started researching PR companies. I wrote my scripted email into their contact forums. I got their email addresses and sent them personal emails. I introduced myself and said who I was and that I'd love to be on their media contact list or their PR list. And it's as easy as that. Once they have your contact details, you'll be on their PR list. And this goes for people in beauty magazines, in bridal magazines, in music magazines, any magazine, four-wheel drive magazines. So you want to approach PR companies as well that appeal to the type of demographic you have. So let's say if you're in the music industry, you're going to look for PR companies that manage music festivals, music artists, things like that. So that music can be kind of tricky when it comes to PR companies. I kind of, as I started going and getting added onto people's PR lists and my name started getting sent around, I started gaining more contacts. But also, I have a journalism background and I met a lot of people that worked in the music industry and were music journalists. So I have lots of contacts from there as well. So that's why I suggest you go to my contact list because that can be super helpful for you. But if you're in the beauty industry, it's going to be a lot easier because the beauty industry is huge and a lot of PR companies represent beauty industries, beauty companies. So just basically how I found these places were I just looked at all the PR companies, they show who they represent. So you see if you'd be interested in getting anyone that they represent, but they do update these constantly. But another way to go about it is, say you think of a brand that you love, so L'Oreal. Find out who is representing L'Oreal and contact them. And then once you're on the PR list of all these companies, you start getting sent emails with the options to have samples of these products in exchange for reviews in the magazine. So once you start getting that, you start just getting bombarded with emails, and it can be quite overwhelming, but it's really great to be on the PR list, trust me. It's amazing. And this just, once you gain their trust, like start getting products, start reviewing, gain their trust, they keep sending you more emails, you have the opportunity to attend events, which I got the opportunity to attend a Kit Kat event recently, which is awesome. I wasn't able to go, but this just shows like how big of PR companies your name gets sent to. So originally I didn't contact the company that represents Kit Kat, but they just found me. And once you start gaining their trust, you can start asking for ad slots. So that's how that kind of works. And then say you're in the wedding industry, you'd want to, it's going to be a bit different for you because not many PR companies cover things like wedding dresses and flower shops that I know. They do cover venues though, so they could be good for you too actually. So you want to, the type of people you want to approach for ads are wedding venues or engagement venues. You want to contact flower stores. So I just look for flower stores and try and do collaborations with them, such as see if you can do a feature on them or interview some people that work at flower stores or anything like that. Just be creative and use your head, because you can actually come up with some pretty cool concepts, and if you gain those contacts, they're going to trust you as well. So say you said to them, look, so that you trust me and want to put an ad in my magazine, I'm going to write an article about your store, or I'm going to suggest or put a free sample ad for their store in there. Start drumming them up some clients, and then they will trust you and they will want to pay you for ads. So things like that. Also bridal boutiques, bridal stores. You could do things like, in exchange for a mention in your magazine, a free fitting, or I don't really know how bridal works, bridal stores, but anything that they would have to pay for. I know, discount codes. So you could get someone a discount off a dress. So they could give you a discount code which you can put in the magazine, and that gets them clientele, and in exchange they'd pay you for an ad. Anything like that. Another good thing for bridal magazines is to, a bit off topic, but attend bridal fairs. So you'd have a stand, you'd take your copies of your magazine, have them set out on the table, and do you know who attends bridal fairs? Florist shops and individual florists, bridal stores, any venues, everyone attends bridal fairs. This is a huge event. Hairdressers, it's just endless. Like, you can meet all these people, gain contacts in person there. They trust you because they've met you. It's just a great way to make contacts, and you can sell your magazine there, because brides also go to bridal fairs to find hairdressers, to find magazines that suggest the best in the industry, the best florists, the best hairdressers, makeup artists. The list is endless. There's just so much that you could do with this. Now, say that you're a four-wheel drive company. So there are PR companies that cover four-wheel drive companies, and you could do, like, say you wanted to do a review on the latest King's tent or anything like that. Try and get a discount or get a free tent if you're that lucky. Review it in your magazine. So it's things like that that you can do to drum up business. Now, let's jump into why I used Canva instead of InDesign, put together my latest issue. So my latest issue, I wanted to put out quickly, and I wanted to basically save on the price of Adobe, because if you didn't know, Adobe, you can get a free trial, but to cancel your plan you kind of have to call them up, and it's a whole big ordeal to get off your plan once you've finished using it. And they do charge a hefty monthly fee, and keep in mind that it's in American dollars. So say if you saw $20 Australia, no, $20 USD, you think, oh, it's only $20, that's not that bad. It's $40 Australian because it's USD. So just keep that in mind. I didn't want to pay the fee as I knew that this was going to be my last issue, and I want to do it quickly. So I'd been using Canva a lot for, I'm an author too, if you didn't know, I've been using Canva a lot for my author things, and I noticed they had magazine templates on there. They're so awesome, it's so easy to use, so much quicker, and the printing quality is the same as I mentioned before, so it's just awesome. And I did do a tutorial on how I use Canva to make my magazines, so I will put a screenshot in here on how to do that, but make sure you check out that video. I will link it down below as well. I wanted to talk about why I decided to end my print magazines. Now, this is because I just didn't have much of a passion anymore for making the magazines. I was finding that it was taking a lot of my energy, and I just, as much as I love writing, I just find myself more pulled to the author side of things, writing books and fiction novels. So while I am keeping open my website and I'm keeping doing PR things here and there, and I love opening my website and my magazine to new authors, so I do have that still going, and I'm still doing interviews and things like that, so I'm keeping that all running, but it's not where my passion lied anymore. But the great thing is that I feel like I've learnt so much on this journey, and I did start the magazine only to gain experience in the industry and build a portfolio for myself in the journalism field. So that is why I started it, and now I feel like I've done that, and it's just not serving me anymore in the way that it used to, so I'm ceasing my print magazine. But I have learnt so much along the way, and so I'm gonna keep making magazine videos and keep my Patreon open with ongoing templates for magazines and information, and like I said, I have my course in there on how to start your own magazine and contacts in the industry. I just feel like I have so much to share, and I feel like it's a waste not to share it, having all this knowledge on an industry and a topic that I feel like no one really covers enough, and they don't cover as in depth, and having the experience myself, I just feel like I have so much to share. So I am going to keep putting out videos and answering your questions and making Patreon content, because like I said, I just have so much knowledge that I really want to share, and yeah, I do love that and have a passion for that still. Now, there's two other things I want to mention. One is that I wanted to talk about iSubscribe. And if you're going to be putting out regular magazines, not here and there, more like once a month, once a week, iSubscribe is a really, really good way to get subscriptions. So this can bring in a lot of money. I think they actually approached me, and this actually did bring in lots of money for me for the magazine. So yeah, putting it on MagCloud is good and advertising it is good, but iSubscribe, once, how it works is you upload your magazines on there, just the like information, the front cover for example, and the price. iSubscribe puts it on their website, and this is a huge website, you guys, like they are massive. So they put it on their website, they put it on their Instagram, people see it, and they pay for like a 6-month subscription of your magazine. So bam, there's a big chunk of money already, which is so awesome. So I got quite a few of those on iSubscribe. They can also do like 3-month subscriptions, 1 month, depending if your magazine's weekly or monthly or whatever. So that's really awesome. The thing is though, iSubscribe doesn't print for you. They just put your magazine on there and like advertise it for you basically, and they get a small cut of the money you make. And it is up to you to print the magazine. So if you had it on MagCloud, you would print it and send it to the person, but iSubscribe gives you their address and everything like that. And yeah, so that's how that works. That is an awesome avenue. Another thing I wanted to mention is some of the opportunities that I've gotten being in the magazine industry, and that is to interview some really awesome and pretty famous people. So this all came about as well with both PR companies and me contacting the people directly. So if you haven't seen my interview with John Jarratt from Wolf Creek, that was like my biggest, oh my gosh, it was just such an awesome moment for me. So basically, you approach them. It's a really good way, so don't be intimidated. I know it feels intimidating to approach people sometimes, but don't just automatically assume no one's going to get back to you. You have to put yourself out there to make your magazine get ahead. So I had a podcast, if you didn't know, for my magazine as well, where I just interviewed people, called KBS Magazine Podcast. I had this on SoundCloud. I also have the episodes on Patreon, and I'm still keeping that going as well because that is a passion that I had. You can put them on YouTube. It doesn't have to cost you money. So basically, John Jarratt put out a new book, and I contacted the people so the publishing company that published his book, and I just said, hey, I was wondering if I can get an interview. And they asked for my phone number and said they'd check in. Next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call. I answer the phone, and it's John Jarratt himself saying that he was interested in doing an interview. So I was trying to keep it together so much, but I was freaking out on the inside. And basically I said I'd love to schedule a time to do an interview. That's what you say, like, instead of flustering and trying to come up with questions on the spot. I was totally unprepared, so I said I'd love to schedule an interview. He said great. We organised a time, and I quickly ran and came up with some questions and recorded that. So yeah, that is awesome. And if you're Australian, you might know about Round the Twist, the show, which was I grew up watching as a kid. I got to interview Bronson from Round the Twist, which was awesome. And I got to interview a few other people too. Recently, I got an email from a PR company about some musical artists that were coming around a music festival soon. So they were like Ocean Alley, if you know them, Peking Duck, Tones and I. Oh, there were just so many familiar ones. And yeah, basically I had the opportunity to interview them. So just know how cool, like, of opportunities you're gonna get. Like, if you just approach people, don't be afraid to approach people. That is my main advice. Like, if you approach people and put yourself out there, no, you're not always going to get a reply, but sometimes you are, and it can take you some really awesome places. So that is my main tip on that. So just keep going, keep making contacts. Everyone that you meet can be a contact. You would be surprised. So we were given some advice in journalism school to write down the name and number of everyone that you meet, because you never know, like 3 years from now, someone that you met once could become a huge contact for you, and someone that you need to do an article for, like need for an article or something like that. So yeah, or at least get them on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn. Like, you never know what connections they're gonna have. So another tip that I have is to get like a recording device on your phone, because if you're really serious about your magazine, especially interviews, you never know who you're going to run into, and you always have your phone with you, right? So if you're good at coming up with questions on the spot and you want to do up a piece, say you're in the city and you run into someone famous and you have the balls to go up to them and ask for a few questions. You've got your phone on you, record them, go back home, write an article. It's as easy as that. So there's just so many things that you can do. The opportunities are endless. But yeah, that is all that I have for this video. As always, if you have questions, please pop them down below. And if you're on my Patreon, I do answer their questions first, and we do have exclusive content on there. So just keep that in mind too. And I will see you guys in my next video.